guess we'll kick it off. Welcome, I guess, to episode 1 of CRD show podcast, whatever this project is gonna turn out to be. With me for this first episode, Daniel Bender, a good buddy of mine. Dude, you want a little intro? What do you do?
Sure. So I own a creative agency. So we do commercial film work, photography, and branding. So some of my clients range from like Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, and then several fitness companies like CrossFit, and Jack Shocks and a few others. So a lot of commercial stuff, and
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've known each other for a little bit now, working at New Life, but I mean, you kicked off freelance full-timing about, was it a couple months ago? Since it's like past summer, I think when you shifted to full-time.
Yeah, so January 2018, I launched full-time, and then in August of 2018, New Life offered me that job doing videos, so I put freelance kind of on the side and did it part-time, and then took the job with New Life, and then in May went back to full-time freelance again.
Yeah. So, a little summary on what Daniel's been up to. Dude, what are you working on right now? Like right now, what are you working on?
So right now I'm switching a lot more towards focusing on like my own content and less client content. So, working on some new stuff for YouTube, some new partnerships and sponsorships, with different companies, in the film industry, and just focusing on my own, company branding and like internal branding so that I can take my business to the next level. And
That's awesome.
Going to be probably starting an internship in the next 4 months or so.
Like someone coming in interning with you?
Yeah, so I'll bring on it's probably around 10 interns.
Really?
And then should be hiring. Right now I have a full-time employee, and then should be hiring on another 4 full-time employees or so. And with the interns, it'll probably be about a 6-month internship, and towards the end of it, depending on everybody's performance, we'll hire them out of the internship.
Okay. What kind of content are you trying to hone in on? Like, what's the short game right now with that?
So with the internship, it's really just to develop more creators and just get more people that maybe either in high school, out of high school, or in college, that may not know what they want to do, but they know that they're interested in creative work, or they know they are creative. Yeah. And then just kind of give them an outlet to make content and also learn. So part of their program will be to work on actual client work. Yeah. And then it'll be all supervised, but with the goal of them in 6 months to a year that they'll be well versed enough to be able to take on their own projects. Yeah. And that's
actually a really interesting point, and it actually kind of makes me like really happy you say that, because I feel like when someone's kicking off kind of their first business, their first thought is not, hey, how can I give back to someone who has little to no experience? It's how can I hoard these contracts and really hone my own stuff with kind of bringing in like a friend or two. Dude, where is like that thought and that mentality coming from? Because I mean that is a really unique thing. I feel like I know exactly the kind of person I want to like help with this thing.
I know I've always wanted to be able to like have a business or a platform to be able to like help others. It's always been my thing. Like if I have something, and as long as like I'm friends with the person, if I have it, it's theirs to use. So like, it's always been one of my mentors growing up always told me that the best leaders will take their ceiling and make it the people underneath, allow the people underneath them to use their ceiling as their platform. Yeah. So that like, if you're leading people, they should always surpass you. So that's just something I've always liked to do. And then, I've been wanting to do an internship for a while now. I've been talking to a couple guys, or I had a couple guys reach out, and wasn't ready in the past few months, and I'm still not ready yet, but I'm getting there to be able to have an actual program developed for them, so that people aren't just like doing work, that they're actually learning, and there's a goal and a purpose to what they're doing. And then I met with a couple buddies of mine who they launched an internship last year with like 25 kids in high school and college, and now they went from working 20-hour days themselves to where now they have an entire crew.
Yeah.
To where last year they were, turning down work and they were behind on work, to now they're like literally doing 3-day turnarounds on client work, and they're just way
That's
ahead
insane.
of everything. And their billables went way, way, way up. And then also their team has just grown tremendously. So kind of looking, shooting that direction. And yeah.
It kind of sounds like you're creating this experience almost like for yourself, as if like when you were in their age.
Yeah.
Where was your mindset? Go back to that kind of end of high school. Like, I guess creatively for you, what was your mindset during that time? Did you even start doing photo video then? Like,
no. So out of high school, I did running start, so I graduated, and then I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to college, so I decided to just do more of what I was doing at the time, which was live sound, and went on tour. Yeah. And did that for a couple years and just focused on music and live production. I didn't really pick up a camera. Like, I dabbled in friends had cameras and stuff, so I'd help them occasionally, but I didn't really know how to use a camera. And it wasn't until January 2018 where I decided, first off, I kind of made the transition from the production world to photo video. Yeah. And so January 18, I decided to buy my first camera. I dropped like $15,000 and I just told myself I was going to do it. And like 4 months later of doing free work, I had my first paid job. And then that led to more paid work, and then contracts and all sorts of stuff.
I want to go in on that. You said free work there. I feel like that's something that is insanely scary to just kind of think about, but at the same time, I can't remember who I saw who was talking about it, but it's like free work is your greatest asset to leverage, especially early on. Like, what was managing that kind of free dynamic? Because I'm sure you can walk up to anyone and say, hey, do you want free work? But it's like, how do you kind of tell yourself oh no, look, this is free work. I gotta still maintain this level of expectations for myself, for the project. Like, how does managing that whole situation go down, or how did it go down?
Yeah. For me, I always knew that I was gonna do something within fitness, and so at the time I was doing a lot of I was always around SoulCycle, and I knew that I studied their company and realized that all of their marketing and all their content was specifically from New York, even though they have studios around America and other countries and stuff. And so I approached the studio here in Washington and was like, hey, would you guys be interested in me just doing some photo shoots for your guys' merch lines and for your just internal studio? And at first they were like, we don't know, we don't really do that. And then they came back and they were like, actually that'd be awesome. So every week I went in and shot merch for them and shot some of their trainers. Yeah. And then built the network from the people that were riding there, and started getting requests to do photo shoots for different athletes that would come in, professional athletes and just local guys. And then got connected with Lululemon and their ambassadors. And then that kind of led down a trail of just a bunch of free work that turned into more paid. And I've always learned that if I was going to do something, it was going to be 100%. Yeah. You just don't do it. And so, especially since I was doing free work, I knew that I didn't really have a portfolio yet. Yeah. And so I knew that it didn't matter if it was free, that was it had my name on it.
Well, I actually, I feel like that's the key, where it's hey, if you don't have portfolio, it's kind of hey, I wanted to get paid for this thing, but the only companies that can really afford me are going to be really low budget. But that's the thing. If you go free, there's no ceiling on how high production that thing can be. It's literally just about how much you're willing to put away time for. So you could either go, make projects, kind of in perpetuity what you're doing, just, whatever, your own thing, or you could literally go to the businesses that you really enjoy and offer free work. I feel like that's way more interesting, and you would learn a lot more than just, hey, I'm going to create this side fun thing. Yeah. Which is ironic because this is literally my side fun thing. But I think that's a really interesting idea. I mean, however, it's terrifying. That to me kind of gives me goosebumps thinking about it. I was I gotta go talk to clients and free work. I feel like that's always been kind of my living nightmare is bad clientele. like that keeps me up at night. Like that really does.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between, so like when you're starting out, free work is really good. It teaches you to be humble. It also teaches you how to work with clients when you're not getting paid yet, because as soon as you add money, everything changes.
Yeah.
And then it also teaches you, how much your time is really worth. Because when you're first starting out, you may go do a photo shoot for like $5 for a friend or $50, and then you give them 100 photos or something. But you realize really quick, you spent, let's say, 2 hours doing the photo shoot, and then you spent another 5 hours editing all those photos. And is your time really worth, 7 hours, your time really worth $20 or $50? Probably not. But when you're first starting out, it's okay because you're having fun. You're building a portfolio. You're still learning how to actually edit. You're still learning how to shoot. You're still learning a lot. And so it's good. Like if you're just starting out, you shouldn't charge people. But once you get the knowledge and you get the repetitions in, then you can start to earn the money that's being paid towards you. Where, right now, like I have a full-fledged business and I'm doing a lot more high-end work, and I still do free work occasionally, but
you're way more selective about it now.
Very selective, and it's usually just for friends or family or people that I know. Like if there's a company that I know I want to work with, then I'll do a free spec ad and I'll shoot it all without even their knowledge or something. I've done this before where I'll take a product or something, I'll shoot an entire spec ad, and then I'll watermark it, just a big giant watermark over the front, send it to him, be like, hey, if you want this, here it is, but I want a contract or I want future work. So it's a good way to build a relationship and to start a relationship, just knowing that and being very clear up front that if you're going to do that, you have to make it clear that there's all future work is paid, because it's very easy for people to take advantage of that. And you learn really quick that if you don't value your time, no one else is going to. Yeah. So doing free work is a great way in the door, but if you continue to do it, or if you continue to undercut or undervalue yourself, and don't learn how to say no, then you're just going to get trampled over.
I mean, that really is a balance there.
Yeah.
So you just have to be, I just feel like you just got to be really self-aware. Like always asking, is this good? Is this bad? Because the one thing we have, at least being young, is we've got way more time than we do money. So it's like, is this thing allocating my time correctly?
Yeah.
So I guess one thing I kind of want to go back to, and this, permission to go like kind of like just, real deep and granular on something. Like that jump between not doing something and doing something like really quickly for you. Like that was almost instant. And that's a huge thing to take a leap like that so early on. I mean, that's my philosophy is like, look, like we get way too stuck in the what ifs, the thinking, the production, instead of just straight up creating.
Yep.
Like that is the first thing. Motion builds momentum. Momentum builds results, and results actually fund and create your career. So in that moment, I guess one that takes a lot of willpower, and congrats for you for making that so quickly. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we didn't really say this. You were in the military before you went into the creative. Do you feel like a lot of that kind of in the moment decision making came from your experience there?
No, I think it just that's how I was raised. Like my dad had businesses growing up my whole life. And so taking risks was never foreign. We were just always taught to take risks. The worst thing that can happen is you fail and you try again. Yeah. And so I knew that if I was going to do it, I was going to go on. And if I failed, that there was always going to be something else I could do. And if I failed, at the first time, then I would keep trying until I realized that until I either made it or I didn't, and then I would just do something else.
So you just got that entrepreneurship, just in your blood already, like just in your DNA. Because I think that specifically, like entrepreneurship is, I would absolutely call that creative. Any part of business, that's creative. Any problem solving from the get-go is creative. Like humans are we are meant to be creative, and I feel like a lot of people don't get that everything that goes into those problem solving, everything that goes into business, everything that goes into just base communications, whether it's like an account, whether it's with people, all of that is creative. And there's so many bleed over skills that I feel like I've experienced this in like leadership specifically, where it's like, you can be a good designer, but the moment you have to be accountable for someone else's work on top of your own, that changes the dynamic like instantly.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure you're getting this now with like, hey, like I want to be, accountable and responsible for all these interns. I'm sure that's going to be a really interesting shifting gears. Like you said, like 10, 11?
I'm hoping for 10. It could be more, but 10 is kind of like my starting goal.
Your threshold of like, I don't like, do you have anyone who's going to help like manage people, like any project managers, any people kind of supporting you from?
Yeah, I'll have one or two other people helping. That's my next hire is actually a project manager, because I personally, like, I love meeting new clients, but once we started a project, I don't like dealing with clients.
It's like, look, we're at the first 10% and the last 10%. I don't want to see your face during the middle of this thing.
Yeah, everything in between, because what a lot of clients do is you meet with them, you develop your project, you sign contracts, and once the project starts, a lot of clients like to come back and try and change things, not like intentionally trying to like, manipulate you, but there's
they want to be hands-on in the process.
They want to be hands-on, or they just want, like, they don't know what they want, and so they have different ideas. And a lot of clients like are creative or think they're creative, and so they'll want to have their hand in the pie, Yeah. And so for me to be able to separate myself and just not even have to talk to anyone in the middle of the project, like, I set up the project, we go over details, contract signed.
Like the moment you're rolling, you have all the information you need, all the context, like that's all just, set up, good going.
And then someone else can deal with all the middle stuff, because I find myself just stressing way too much about clients trying to change things in the middle of a project, or just things that come up, and it's just like, it's unproductive for me. Yeah. And I'd rather just pay someone that enjoys that.
Do you have any like set amount of like we have like 3 rounds of revisions, or do you really kind of constrict that time process, or is it more kind of open up?
So with every project, I include 1 revision, and after that, then they're paying for it. So
fair.
And it definitely limits, because if you don't start that like and say it in your contracts, then, and the thing is, like, you need to, whether you're just starting out, you need to have a contract for everything. If you just do like a gentleman's agreement or a handshake, then like there's always going to be let down expectations or frustrations on both sides.
And that's not even like evil business. That's just,
it's just smart.
It's just,
protects
like
everyone.
You're protecting your back. Like, it's not like businesses are like out there to get you. They're out there to self-preserve and get what's in their own best interest. And, like, props to business for, like, taking care of themselves. But, it like, creatives are way too undervalued, especially just someone who, like, like companies that will bring on a creative for, like, a little bit of time. They really don't understand, like, the actual value that's bringing, because so much of that kind of consumption of the media they're putting out, it's really hard to like value that unless it's transactional.
Yep.
And I feel like rarely is it like, unless it's like straight up ad where it's like, hey, at the end of this, buy this, there's not a crazy metric other than just pure engagement. So that's hard to kind of really say like, hey, this was the impact. I mean, I'm sure you could get rough numbers on like, oh, we had this many engagements, whatnot, but like to put a number on the value of that is really, really, really hard.
Well, yeah. And so like one of the things that I did that was like one of the best decisions I ever made was like hiring a business attorney on retainer for me. Like, they made me realize that, like, my first meeting with my attorney, he said, Daniel, you're not in the business of making videos or taking photos. You're in the business of contracts. Because at the end of the day, what are your deliverables? What's supposed to be done? How much time is supposed to be made on it? How much are you supposed to be paid for your time and the deliverables? Because if that's not set in stone before you start, you are going to be frustrated. Your clients are going to be frustrated, and you're going to end up getting clients you don't want. And the clients you're working with may, be working with you when they don't want to work with you. And so if your contracts are just there as a guideline. They're there to make everyone from beginning to end like understand what the end goal is. And so like it's hard, especially as creatives, because we don't like we're just like, we just like creating,
hard rule lines,
right? And like we don't like rules and we don't like all this stuff. But at the end of the day, business is business, and you have to be able to separate it internally to be able to say, hey, like, I may have a relationship with you, but if we're working on something, or let's say like you're making a logo for me or something like that, right?
Yeah.
We may be friends, but when business hack comes on, it's business time, right? And so you just have to be able to make that separation. It takes a lot of learning, and I'm still learning it because I hate enforcing contracts, but literally 90% of my job is enforcing contracts. Yeah. And then the other 10% of the time is creating.
Yeah. It's such a process. It's like you can see it in my eyes. Like I just like had like a Vietnam flashback to some interactions where it's like, oh yeah, I'll handshake this, and then just the line gets moved in the sand further and further and further and further. Yep. And I feel like long term the businesses really do enjoy the strict contracts because it's, as a business, you really want to make sure you're coloring within the lines. And like if you understand what amount of worth that you're getting, you're okay with that. Mm-hmm. If it's not really, like you said, set in stone, you're always going to be questioning, am I getting the worth? Am I getting the worth? Am I getting the worth? Yep. So, that goes both ways. Yeah. So, yeah, just making sure that's clear. Like even protecting yourself where it's like, hey, you can't like double use or like double dip into stuff or I feel like with video, you have to show, I mean, you say you only do one revision, which is actually really nice because it prevents them from like taking the stuff and just, going somewhere else with like, here's our idea, re-edit it, reclip it, and we'll do it for cheaper. Mm-hmm. So that really kind of cuts down on the process there. But how do you protect against something like that? Has it even ever happened? Yeah.
So, I mean, it goes back to contracts. Yeah. Right. You never give away full rights to everything unless someone's really paying for it. Right. Yeah. So let's say I do a shoot for Nike next week. Right. Mm. In my contract is going to have exclusive rights to whatever they're using it for. So if let's say we're shooting a commercial that's going on ESPN, right? In the contract, it's going to give usage rights for that specific air date, air
so
time.
Like like this is the only instance of which you can use this platform. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or let's say you're working with a coffee shop down the street, right? And they just want it for social, right? Give them rights to have it on social and maybe their website. But if they want to run paid ads, or if they want to run like an ad at the movie theater or on air or do something else with it, or they're going to put it on a billboard, right? That's not what you charge extra for that. Because if they're making more money on your content, you should make more money.
Well, because it's so easy to take one piece of content and then split it a million different ways into every single platform. Mm-hmm. So like it's kind of, if you have that one bucket that can just drain into all these little areas, and especially with video, I mean, like that's motion's an eye catcher. Yep. Man, like that's liquid gold as far as content goes.
And there's a lot of like CRM platforms out there. Like I use HoneyBook and Monday.com to do all of my like planning. So HoneyBook I use for projects, and I can get contract templates if I want from there. I used to do that. Now I have my attorney write everything, but it's great for just like general templates, and then you kind of adjust it to fit yourself. So it's like if it gives you general copyright usages for like, let's say websites, blogs, and social media, you can change that if the client doesn't have a blog or like something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So you can kind of customize that and then save it as a new template for yourself. And I find that like that website or using HoneyBook really let me track my projects and how much time I was spending on things, and then like keep all my contracts and all my invoices and all of my like proposals, brochures, everything in one place, so that you're not having to search through emails or hard drives or like your computer to find something. So I think if you're just starting out and you don't have something, or even if you've been like going, you're just like always fumbling over people wanting to use your stuff for more, or just if you need help with projects, like look at HoneyBook. They do it, they do a free trial, but stuff like that will really help you in the long run.
Do you ever turn your brain off of business? I mean, you work like 24/7. You live for the grind. I mean, you're like actually like addicted to the process, and like that's what I love too. Yeah, I feel like if you love the end of a thing, you're going to be disappointed a lot. Mm-hmm. You really have to enjoy that like middle period. As much as you said you hated the middle period, maybe with clients, but as far as being in the process for a project, like you're always happier if you enjoy the process, because like say the whole thing at the very end just gets nixed, like just cut, pay you sure, but it's never going to get used.
Yep.
If you are so focused on like the implementation and the finished project, you just get the wind taken out of your sails at that point. But if the entire time you've been like, wow, this is really enjoyment, and the fact that you did it and, like learn to progress and whatnot, and like that was the full, measure of what you enjoyed, like you're way happier whether or not that thing gets used, whether or not it's like put out, utilized, whatever.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's you to a T. You really enjoy that kind of that middle game for projects.
I don't know.
What do you do to relax? Like, I mean, I feel like besides exercise, but that's still a grind.
I don't know. The past few weeks, I've been like on a lighter schedule to where I'm really only filming a couple days a week, and then I've had a lot more time to go do stuff. And so, I don't know. It's been weird because normally I don't relax. Like, I get home usually from the studio around midnight.
Yeah.
Like watch an hour or so of TV, and then I go to bed.
Yeah.
So, but the last few weeks, like, I've been taking my dog to like the dog park and stuff
Nice.
like that. Like that's. I don't know. It's just totally different. I don't know if it's relaxing or not, but I've been like forcing myself to go do stuff, or else I'll just live at the studio.
Do you ever like panic when things are kind of too quiet? Because I feel like I totally do that, where it's like not enough's happening. I'm not doing like if we're not moving forward,
Any
we're
day
like
I'm not doing
we're
something.
like we're sinking, or if there's not momentum and progression, you're just like you just feel your heart just start going and like something's wrong. Like I'm missing something.
Yep.
Like I feel like if I don't have like one foot in chaos all like 24/7, I'm not like alive.
Yeah.
And that sounds really weird, but to me that's like life is not simple, straightforward, or whatnot. See, it's like if I truly do have one foot in, that means like, okay, we're all right, we're a part of it, we're like taking in information, but the moment it goes like way too easy, like, I'm terrified.
Yeah, if there's like a day like there has been the past few weeks where I literally have nothing, like there's always something I could do, but like some days I'm just like wiped out and I don't have the energy to just like spend 16 hours editing, but I literally have to do something or else I freak out. I have to be moving. I have to be doing something. Like if especially like right now I don't have that problem, but a year ago, like when I was, just getting into like bigger clients, medium-sized clients, like there'd be days or weeks where like, I may only have 2 big jobs a month, and then the rest of the time like I was not doing anything, so I'd go like shoot with friends or go do other stuff. But like when there's days that you're not creating or there's days that you're not doing stuff, you literally feel like you're just not doing enough.
I mean, there's such irregularity to it.
Yeah, it's like you have to have a purpose. For me, like I have to know that what I'm doing is meaningful and I have a purpose to what I'm doing. And there's a lot of days where I don't feel like I have that, and then I start freaking out.
Do you ever feel like that's like super tied to like a dollar number as far in your contracts? Is that the metric you kind of gauge it by sometimes?
Not really. It's more just like actually, it's less about the dollar and more to me about like the meaningfulness of what I'm doing. So like, I just like creating. I like working with brands and people, and I get really bored really easily. So if I'm like doing the same thing over and over and over, and then like I see like other buddies that are working on cool stuff, I get like in my mind I'm like, okay, I need to like go do something cool. Like so I get in my head about that, and that's just like I'm always searching for like the next best thing, which can be really bad, but at the same time like that's just who I am.
What's your fear with this game right now? Like, I mean, the hustle that you're playing, like what really gets you where you're like, oh, like I really missed it there, or like gosh, I really hope this doesn't happen,
Really the only thing that like scares the crap out of me is growth. Like as weird as that sounds, like the idea of like right now it's me and one other person, and I know to be able to get bigger, I have to add more people, which adding more people means trusting people and letting them just
they're really repping your business. They're creating your content,
your company and your brand and your face and your name. Like you take it a lot more at heart, and no one ever working for you is going to work as hard as you, because they don't have the same reward and the same return or the same investment.
Yeah.
So like,
they're not going to have the same process, not going to live the same lifestyle.
Yeah. So it's like the scariest thing for me is just like the process of growing bigger, because I know to grow bigger and for me to be able to do more and be able to like help more people and just get bigger, I'm going to have to let go of a lot. And that's scary for me.
Yeah. Do you kind of have like a cap on how far you want to go with growth? Like,
No.
I mean, there's such I've seen some circumstances where things grow way too fast with either a creative firm or some sort of digital marketing agency, where it's like they just take on way too much as far as growth and don't kind of check themselves in that process. Because I feel like maintaining healthy growth really boils down to like culture. Like, what culture are you going to set in your business? Not that that's the question I'm asking, but I'm like, I feel like that's the thing, you know? So.
Yeah. No, I think like growth, if you just let it happen naturally and you don't try and push it, then I think, you'll be okay. Where definitely not trying to push it right now. I'm just like, I'm just doing what's in front of me.
I'm just burning
and
out.
That's like right now I'm trying to refocus to be able to like, I'm finally out of like client load.
Yeah.
Like I have current projects that I'm working on, but I'm not so far under a client projects that that's all I can think about. And so that's what I'm working on right now is like, okay, I know I have these projects and I'm not taking any more new stuff right now. I'm really actually dialing back the amount of clients that I'm working with to focus on.
Because you can afford to do that.
Because right now I can afford to do that, which is great. Like, I'm still taking on other things because at the end of the day, like, money is money and you have to make money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I'm more than making enough right now, which is great. So it's letting me take the time to focus on myself and my brand and the company, which we restructured the company to really just separate away from me personally. And that way it's less of like, when you talk to people, if you're like, oh yeah, I'm a freelance, blah, 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 I'm a freelance photographer, videographer, designer, then there's almost like a unsaid limit to how far you can go or what you can do.
Yeah.
But if you approach people and you're like, oh yes, my company, then immediately in people's heads, it almost like flips a switch and it's like, okay, they can handle more than maybe just a freelance.
Like they've thought about infrastructure. They've thought about business. They've covered all these other bases that comes with like, scaling up some of your client work. So
yeah.
That's a really interesting way to approach that. Yeah. I think that's super cool.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like,
I'm
just going.
You're just going. That's your default mode. We're just blinders on. Yeah. Moving forward. That's awesome, man. I'm super excited to see what comes out of the future. Thanks for chatting.
Yeah, man. This is cool. Fun. This is fun.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be back around because my goal. I think I want to try and hit like once a week. Do this. Yeah. For however long with like whoever I can grab. Totally unstructured. Because I the core of this is kind of like, people can sit on their pedestals and talk theory of like, here, this is how you should run a business. This is how you should do design. This is how you should think. I'm like, I am 23. I have like hardly any skin in the game as far as experience. The only thing that I think that I can do is tell a story. Because you just make it personal. It's like this is this person's story. Because I feel like it's like sometimes I'm like, I'm not that interesting, but I know a lot of really interesting people who totally should be on a podcast or totally should be sharing their stuff. Yeah. So. Dude, I love your story. I love your work, man. I love the hustle. Yeah, so fun. Thanks. Dude, a lot of fun. Pleasure. Yeah.